Freddie Mercury were man-on-man lovers. It's not true, Mr. Miles. You're all liars. You're all liars, you sons of bitches. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, I love you. You son of a bitch, anti-tracker! You take that back! You take that back right now! He said that Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were man-on-man lovers. It's not true, Mr. Miles. You're all liars. You're all liars, you sons of bitches.
It's the anti-tracker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
What is going on YouTube? Michael J. Crawford, the anti-tracker here. Good to see you all. Thomas, first, once again, good to see you. Kongu says first, but actually was second, and then says, oh, hi. Andre is here from Bosnia. Good to see you as always, Andre. John, the former peasant, says hi. Dan23 says hi. Azine says afternoon. Hey, Azine. Congo says hello. You all, or how are you all doing? Hanging in there, my friend. Cinnabon says hello. BIRDOPREY says kapla. And this is my world, says Boo. This is my world. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome. And is this your world? Because I thought we all kind of shared it. But if it's yours, sorry. And Thomas puts $1.99 into the chat as usual. Thank you once again, Thomas, and says, have you left West Kurdistan yet? I'm still working on packing my bags, Thomas. I apologize, but, you know, I've got a lot of stuff here. So I'll get out of West Kurdistan as quick as I can and be back in the Capitol building where I belong. But number one is what you want. Here it comes. Let me stop that, let that finish playing across. Rock Solid also put $2 in. Thank you so much, Rock Solid. I do love that. Dan23 says, saw the new final episode 9 trailer. I don't know that that's the final trailer. It's the first full-length trailer. But honestly, it's not even, well, I'm gonna do a full-on reaction on it. But bottom line is, it's not much of a trailer at all. It really isn't. It's more like a visual effects test reel. It's beautiful, but it doesn't do its job, which is to pique interest in the movie. Josh Street says, Anti-Tracker really needs help with BIRDOPREY porn addiction. What porn addiction? That was Bird complaining about Frank Sinatra for some reason. I thought Bird liked Frank Sinatra, but apparently when he found out that Frank Sinatra may or may not have been involved in a relationship with Freddie Mercury, that really set him off. So, don't know what to say. Anyway, Darren says, good morning, house, second leg. It's hurting, but, you know, I'm definitely, it's hurting a little bit less every day. So that's the good news. John says krapla to the chat. Surf Trick China says, oh man, it's too early for this voice. And then Darren says, Ronan Farrow is the son of Frank Sinatra. Well, I don't know much about Frank Sinatra, to be honest, outside of, his mob connections and that he's, obviously a very talented musician. Other than that, I really don't know anything about him as far as family or anything like that. John says Darren is correct. Okay, well, there's confirmation. Vile Mike says, howdy, folks. I can't stay as I have to work, but want to say hi. Have a good insert relevant time period here and remind you all to sub to me. Absolutely. You should check out Vile Mike if you haven't already. His channel with him and his Vile Child doing Trek reviews are pretty darn good. Mrs. Anti-Trekker is waving it at everybody. Hey, babe. Rock Solid with his $2 wants to see Hooker Client Confidentiality. And as usual, I can never remember the numbers, but that's why I bring up the list. All right, so here you go, my friend.
Hey, you want to learn about Jesus?
There's no such thing as hooker-client confidentiality.
I do love that one. Josh Street says, hi to Mrs. Antricker. Hope you're having a great morning and you have a great day. Dr. Alex is here, says, hello, Anti-Trekker. Hello, Mrs. Anti-Trekker. Dr. Alex, you and I need to have a conversation. I mean, you're posting music videos online dedicated to my wife. We may have a problem here, Doctor. Rock Salt says, hello. Toby Chikua. Toby, wow, I don't have no clue how to say your name. Says kapla and welcome, or hello from Ireland. Hello, and I have no idea how to pronounce your name, but welcome. I don't think I've seen you before, so welcome, my friend. Your T-shirt is a music parody spoof. That is true. Well, Weird Al Yankovic has made an entire career out of music parody, and I love it. I feel less dirty watching Hooker Client Confidentiality than I do watching the trailer for Rise of Skywalker. Wow. I'll tell you, I don't know, and the trailer didn't make me feel dirty. Honestly, the big problem with the trailer, it didn't make me feel anything at all. That's the real problem, because the whole point of a movie trailer is to incite interest in the upcoming movie. Usually by showing you a good idea of what the basic gist of the story is about and the general tone of the film. This trailer does neither. And so it doesn't show you what the real tone of the film is going to be. It doesn't show you anything about what the story of the film is going to be. It just shows you random, unrelated shots of people and things doing stuff. And that's a problem, because I understand that, I know some people are saying, oh, they're still making the movie. I really doubt that they don't know how the movie's going to end at this point. I know a lot of people are throwing that rumor around. I don't buy that for a second, because if they were actually so far behind on the shooting that they didn't have the ending of the film figured out yet, there is no way in hell it could be released in December. They would have to push it at least till next summer. And since there's been no talk of delaying the film, I think the film is pretty much in the can. They might be doing a few reshoots here and there to tighten up certain scenes, but I like I said, I just don't buy the whole oh no, they have no idea what they're doing thing. I think that that's just people basically trying to fan the flames of the anti-Star Wars sentiment that's out there. And don't get me wrong, you guys know I am definitely not a fan of recent Star Wars films, but I'm not going to unnecessarily fan the flames when, believe me, what they're putting out there is plenty. Captain MKG says, good morning all, getting my soup ready as I've gotten some kind of cold. Good to see you all. That sucks, man. I'm sorry you got a cold, but I'm glad you have some soup to help you get through it. Josh says, Anti-Trekker, doesn't Mrs. Anti-Trekker have the final say on who gets thrown out of Turtistan? Well, of course she does. That's the only reason I haven't left. John says, I tried to put a howdy to Mrs. Antricker twice, full fail. Well, that's all right. Mrs. Antricker appreciates it. Dan says, yeah, with these episode 9 trailers aren't really giving the plot or telling of what the characters are doing. Exactly, and that's the thing. We need to know, because if you're gonna, first of all, you have, everybody knows, and if they're gonna try to pretend that it's not happening, then the producers over at Lucasfilm are even dumber than I thought. They've got to know that the fan base is divided on Star Wars right now. The only way they're going to unite the fan base and get them excited is to show us elements of a story that looks awesome. And right now, all they're showing us is really good special effects. Well, guess what? They showed us really good special effects for Solo. They showed us really good special effects for The Last Jedi. And that's not enough in and of itself. That's nice. Okay, we know you haven't slacked off on the visual effects, but nobody expected it to not be awesome for visual effects. It's a freaking Star Wars movie, and without exception, every Star Wars movie that has come out has had cutting-edge special effects, if not groundbreaking special effects. So don't just show me that it has great special effects. Show me what the freaking movie is about. Let's see. Thomas is saying, after several violations of the law, Turkestan divided into 2 nations. That's fake news. Don't listen to him. CDH says, howdy, y'all. Dr. Alex says, yes, much like the whole of The Farce Awakens, it looks like a visual effects test reel. Well, I think The Force Awakens was half of a good movie. Unfortunately, it was also half of a crap movie. I liked the first half of The Force Awakens. I think that the second half, basically once they got off Jakku, the movie completely fell apart. But the first half of the film, I thought was actually pretty solid. Josh says, Andrew, what's up with JJ and his having starships coming out of water? Good question. Nice shot, but yeah, it was kind of funny because it's like, really, JJ, you're going to do the exact same shot with the Star Destroyer that you did with the Enterprise? Okay. Rocksolid says, remember people, smash the like button, share via social, set chat to live, turn on mic and camera before going live, donate if you can, join the Patreon, and down with Karoga. Absolutely. And CDH is now saying no. Okay. Scientific Lens says, howdy folks, Frank Sinatra wasn't a musician, he was a crooner and an actor. Well, okay, fair enough. He didn't play, as far as I know, he didn't play instruments, but he was a great singer. And he, don't get me wrong, I know Bird loves Frank Sinatra, right? But I've never really been all that. As far as crooners are concerned, frankly, I like Harry Connick Jr. better than Frank Sinatra. But you know, he's just not my style. Hello world. And Rock Solid puts another $5 into the chat. Thank you so much. Says HypnoTurd, Hooker Client Confidential. Whoa, and then it disappeared on me. Let me bring up the old dashboard so I can see it. It says HypnoTurd plus Hooker Client Confidentiality equals a crappy hooker. Yeah, that kind of stands to reason. I suppose. I mean, we could. Well, let's see. If we take. Let me go to, if we go here.
Let me play among the stars.
Okay, that's
Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words,
okay, so if we go
hold my hand.
Alright, so there's the Hooker Client Confidentiality.
Hey, you want to learn about Jesus?
There's no such thing as hooker-client confidentiality.
Alright, try that again.
Hey, you want to learn about Jesus?
There's no such thing as hooker-client confidentiality.
Give to the HypnoTurd or space or reloaded and drag. There you go. You can
you want to learn about Jesus?
There's no such thing.
Or deal with the Hooker Client Confidentiality. That's just kind of weird. What was that space iceberg Cloud City frozen over? I don't know. I was kind of wondering about that. I do like the look of it, but yeah, you know what? That would have been a great thing to throw into the trailer. What the heck is that? Cinnabon says, are you going to do a full server reset soon? Start a new round? We're talking about it. We're going to need to do a big, massive battle, though, because there's a few people that I understand have really pretty impressive starships. So I think we need to set a time limit for people to finish whatever ships they're working on and have a massive battle to determine the winner, and then set up a new round. And actually, me and Bert are going to be talking after the live stream today about how we're going to set up the next round, because I have a couple ideas on how to make it a little more efficient overall, including a way to keep the PCU count from going as crazy as it has. And by the way, if you're watching this, Chris and Thomas, I'll probably need your guys' help for what we're going to do. I think you'll like it. All right, so let's see. Dr. Alex says, oops. CDH says, howdy, Antricker. Hey, Mrs. Antricker saying hi to Rock Solid. Thomas, you traitor, you're a Kurogan plant. No, I don't think Thomas is a Kurogan plant. I think he's simply misinformed on a couple of things, that's all. Thomas says, SJW claim episode 9 will beat Endgame. Well, those SJWs are idiots. Because the only way, here's the problem, the SJWs, sure, they like Star Wars a lot more than they like Avengers, because Avengers only has mild elements of feminism and stuff in it, while the Star Wars is, of course, it's wall-to-wall political agenda. But Star Wars is waning in its popularity while Marvel is still peaking. So I don't think for a minute that all of a sudden Star Wars is going to come back after the disastrous box office of Solo and then the disastrous reception of The Last Jedi and set a new world record. I just don't think it's going to happen. So we'll find out. Dan says, Antrager, this afternoon I'm watching Voyager Equinox Part 1 and 2. At some point, Captain Janeway says Equinox can go as fast as Warp 8, and then later she says it can go as fast as Warp 6. Well, I haven't watched the episode in a long time, but was the Equinox damaged at some point during that, so that maybe the reason she later says Warp 6 is because maybe the warp core was damaged or something? Just, that could be a reason. Darren says, if I were Emperor, and it's probably a good thing I'm not, I would ban conversation about the new Star Wars trailer. Mage Grey Wolf says, I didn't feel anything the Star Wars trailer at all. Yeah, that's the big problem. It didn't get me excited, didn't make me angry, it didn't evoke any feeling whatsoever. It's just I was looking at some stuff going, wow, that looks nice. No, Antrigger is the traitor. He's released classified info to the enemy several times. Fake news. All lies. Don't listen to him. CDH says, story. There is no story in Rise of Skywalker. I hope you're wrong about that. Sledgehammer is in the house. Says, been a while, Antrigger. Good to see you, Sledgehammer. Haven't seen you in a bit. John, the former president, says, space horsies for everyone. Yes, that did make me cringe. The fact that... And that shows me the ignorance of the producers of this film. What is the one thing that everybody, and I mean even the people that were trying to defend The Last Jedi to the bitter end, what was it that they all had in common? Nobody liked the Canto Bight stuff. Nobody did. Everybody, even the people that loved the movie, said that the Canto Bight felt out of place and kind of messed up the pacing of the film and seemed kind of pointless, right? And yet, what do they bring back? Those freaking space horses. Yay! Dan says things in Star Wars 9 that haven't even been shown in trailers. What? I'm not sure what you mean there. Miss Antrigger saying hi to John. Scientific Lens says, I predict a Force Ghost Roman orgy for the climax. John saying hi to Mrs. Anti-Trigger. Dan says, one thing I do not like about Star Wars Episode 9 trailer is they are not shown 2D-D2. Okay, not sure what you're talking about there. You mean R2-D2 maybe? That they didn't show R2? Well, I'm sure R2's in the movie. And you know what kind of rubbed me the wrong way though is that when they and I don't remember if they did this in The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. I genuinely don't remember. But I did not like that. I think it's Poe referred to C-3PO as 3PO. Sorry, but Han Solo is the one who refers to C-3PO as 3PO, not freaking Poe. So I didn't like that. I honestly hope the new Star Wars film ends with Get falling over, having a heart attack, with Get falling over, having a heart attack, and it's all a dream in Luke's head. Okay? I think that's not going to happen. John says, hello. Ray is what you meant. Ray falling over, having a heart attack. Gotcha. I'm going to check out now. Love you guys. See you later, babe. Epic Beard says, inconceivable. Tom saying bye to Miss Sanctuary. There have been a few Star Wars books there were a few Star Wars books were listed for release in December 2019, and the dates have been changed to ones in 2020. Well, I don't read the books, so quite frankly, that doesn't really affect anything to me. But just because they push the books back, there's been no word that they're going to push the release of the film past Christmas. And I think that if they're really not finished, that would be a horrible mistake. Azine says, didn't think that was water. It looked like rock. Well, it looked like it's either ice or crystals to me. Josh saying bye to Miss Saint Trigger. Mr. Miles claims first, and Cree, which, by the way, I had to laugh when BIRDOPREY was talking about how he watched Captain Marvel, and now he knew what Mr. Miles was talking about when he kept saying Cree, and it's like, nope, different Cree. I'm going to laugh when Jumanji beats Star Wars this Christmas. If that actually happens, you will not be alone. I will be sitting there laughing with you. Although I mean, just being realistic, I doubt that Jumanji is going to beat Star Wars. I think Star Wars will be the quote-unquote hit of the Christmas season, but I don't think it's going to be a $2 billion film like the last two episodic Star Wars films. I think that it's going to be probably, well, actually, it wasn't even the last two. It was like, I think it was what 1.8 for The Last Jedi and 2 point something for The Force Awakens. I think we're probably looking at $1 billion to $1.5 billion, which is, it's a good return, but it's notice a steady decline in the Star Wars films. The only way it's going to break $2 billion, honestly, is if J.J. Abrams pulls a freaking miracle off and makes it, and actually redeems the franchise with it. Then I could definitely see it breaking $2 billion, and even possibly beating the record if J.J. manages to salvage the franchise. The odds of that are not good, but it could happen. Stromer says, greetings, Antrigger and fellow nerds. Greetings, Stromer. Thomas says, Antrigger, does BIRDOPREY love Sinatra like Freddie Mercury did? Good question. I think you should probably ask BIRDOPREY that on his stream today. Epic Beard, in the style of singing Tony Bennett, in that style of singing, Tony Bennett has a better voice. I like Alec Baldwin's imitation of Tony Bennett. If you haven't seen that, it's I like things that are great. But no, I like Harry Connick Jr. I actually took Mrs. Anti-Trekker to see Harry Connick Jr. in concert many, many years ago. And Harry Connick was great in concert. John says, Anti-Trekker, watch JJ take all of his profits and search in the Marianas Trench for aliens. The obsession is real. That would be interesting, but I hope he doesn't do that. The real question is, does Bird love Sinatra like a man loves a Jeep? That is an interesting question, and another one you should ask Bird on his stream later today. Discovery had good visual effects, but it's still not liked. Exactly. That's the thing. Showing me good visual effects does not show me a potentially awesome movie. It just shows me that, yeah, you spent some money on the visual effects. Congratulations. Mr. Londell says, Entry, not a fan of Sinatra. Huh? Too bad. You're missing out on a lot. Well, it's just, here's the thing. It's not that I'm missing out. I've heard plenty of Sinatra songs. I'm not BIRDOPREY, where I'm completely ignorant of everything except for what I'm a fanboy of, where BIRDOPREY doesn't even know who frickin' Freddie Mercury is. I'll be honest. I'm not a big Queen fan, right? Freddie Mercury, I really couldn't care less about as far as his music. I've never cared for, even though I know everybody loves We Will Rock You and stuff like that, I never really cared for Queen all that much. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is overrated. That being said, I fully acknowledge Freddie Mercury's incredible talent as a singer, and also, you know, that Queen has been a very influential band, and some of what they've done. And I know a lot of their songs as I've heard them. Same thing with Frank Sinatra. I'm not a big fan of Frank Sinatra's particular singing, quite frankly, but I've heard a lot of his songs. I'm not saying he's untalented. I'm not saying he's a hack or anything like that. It's just not for me. I'm honestly more into, I love classical music. I love electronic music more than I like crooners. Broxon says, just be glad that BIRDOPREY 5 is into Jeeps and not Chevys, because then Lore walking past the hooker client confidentially could be about Joe's love for Like a Rock. And no, not rock solid. The space iceberg isn't Cloud City frozen over yet. Okay. The Enterprise came out of the water in Star Trek Into Darkness. Yes, that's true. And that's what I'm saying. It's like that Star Destroyer shot was like the same shot as we got from Star Trek Into Darkness. And, of course, we also had the Enterprise rising out of an atmosphere in Star Trek 2009. It's like JJ just likes having starships rising out of stuff. Doesn't mention Sinatra and Freddie Mercury being lovers or Bird will explode. Yeah, don't mention that. Do not talk about the fact that Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were, in fact, lovers back in the 70s. T-Berg says, good to catch you at lunch. Good to see you, T-Berg. Thomas says, it's all part of the plan to defeat BIRDOPREY. Okay. Yes, Equinox was damaged. Okay, yeah, that's what I was saying. So that might explain why the warp factor was reduced. Life with Matthew says, hello, Andy Trucker and all, how's it going? It's going all right, my friend. Good to be here. This is, just so you guys know, this is not going to be a marathon live stream today for sure, because I do have work to do. I'm going to actually get a couple of things done today. Mr. Miles is going to be working on my breakdown of the Star Wars trailer. And I am also going to be working on getting the religious channel set up so that we can kind of have a separation of church and state here, and have the religious stuff on that channel to avoid any potential problems with Google hitting this channel for when we talk about religion. Thomas says, ending the server already? Son of a bitch, I have many plans. We're not ending it tomorrow or anything, but I do think we need to talk about it, because the server is starting to hit its max PCU. And I think we do need to have some fun battles, because I want to see these ships fight. The problem, and this is what I think, Bird, when we talk, I think I have a way around this for the next round. But the problem is, we've had this in each server we've ran, is that we have people build these massive ships. And in fact, there's one right here. If we look at that big old ship of Azine's. Right, so we have this massive ship that Azine built. Look, it's like twice the size of the frickin' restaurant. It's a very impressive battleship type of ship. Obviously a capital ship. Obviously very, very powerful. And I happen to, yeah, and I know that, you know, BIRDOPREY has the SOB Frank Sinatra. I have the TRD Freddie Mercury, which is almost done with construction. And I know that several other people have these wonderful, beautifully designed, awesome battleships that are all ready to go, and nobody will fight. Everybody is playing it safe. Like right now, Azine is parked at the restaurant right now inside of a safe zone so that nobody can hurt him. What's the freaking point? Honestly, if we're not going to fight, then what's the point of building these ships? It takes, you know, yes, building the ships is a lot of fun, but then we need to engage in combat. If there's not a constant stream of combat and ships are being destroyed, then the PCU limit just builds up and up and up and up, because everybody's avoiding each other and just building bigger and bigger stuff until the game just crashes. So on the next round, I think I have a way to avoid that, and Bird and I are going to talk about it after the live stream. But for right now, we're starting to bog down the server because people have built such awesome, powerful ships, and nobody's fighting each other. And so what we're going to have to do is, once the server gets close to, basically, we're going to have to set a definitive date that we're going to have some battles to see who's the ultimate winner of this round, and then restart. Let's see. And I'm hoping with the design changes I have in mind for the next server, I think that it'll be able to last longer. Darren says, you know, the film 2001: Space Odyssey ignored certain cinematic conventions like structure and plot, so maybe Star Wars 2019 will be okay. well, I kind of doubt that we're going to get a 2001 level of movie. The episode 9 felt like any other JJ movie. I disagree, Josh. I don't think it felt like any other JJ movie, but it does feel very generic. Epic says, thumbs up for Weird Al. Thank you, my friend. Space Horses. Star Wars is now a space western. Yeah. W Sidetrack says, hello all, what's the topic today? Well, we don't really do topical-driven shows, but right now we're talking about the Star Wars trailer and space engineers. Mr. Londell says, Luke also referred to C-3PO as 3PO. Okay, but I still, when to have the next gen characters call C-3PO by the same nickname that Han did, when at least as far as I could tell, I don't think they ever heard Han call C-3PO 3PO in The Force Awakens. So it just feels wrong. I think the special effects crew could have written a more interesting, cohesive script. Rey and Bree are also human blocks of wood. Scientific, I'm going to agree and disagree with you on that. First of all, I do think the visual effects crew could probably have made a better story, but we don't know. We don't know what the story is going to be yet, so I'm not going to judge the story before we see it, but judging by the fact they're not telling us anything about a story, that's not a good sign. Rey, as far as, Daisy Ridley playing Rey, she is very wooden. She doesn't seem to really grasp subtlety of emotion. She's either like, or there doesn't seem to be anything in between. Brie Larson, I am going to disagree with you on. I did not like Brie Larson in Captain Marvel. I think she did. Captain Marvel was definitely a block of wood in that movie. Captain Marvel, unfortunately, was the worst element of the Captain Marvel film. The rest of the film, outside of Brie Larson, was actually not bad. But Brie Larson was so bad it dragged down the whole film. That being said, it's not Brie Larson. It's the director of that film did that intentionally. That's what they wanted. They wanted Captain Marvel to be stoic. They wanted her to be somewhat wooden. I don't know why. I think it's a horrible choice, but that was all intentional. If you look at Brie Larson's body of work outside of Captain Marvel, I'm not saying Brie is like this great, incredible actress, but she displays good, genuine emotion in a couple of her other films. So it's not that she can't do it, but they wanted her to be that way, which blows the mind. Dr. Alex saying hi to Mr. Bowles. Sith Troopers have not been in any trailer. That's true. I'm sure they'll only be in one scene of the movie. There's just to sell toys. Jaron says, JJ doesn't do endings well. The man couldn't finish a tuna fish sandwich. Well, I think he could finish a tuna fish sandwich, but there would still be tuna left on the floor. Again, I'm sorry for any autocorrect. Remember, I'm not good at spelling. That's okay, Dan. I don't judge on spelling. Super Blogpost says, Enter, what do you think of the scene in the trailer where Rey and Solo kill the Emperor, then Rey and Solo kill the Emperor, then Solo takes off his mask again? I think that's interesting what they do in there. I'm gonna freeze frame and go through it. I think that it's probably either a dream or some kind of vision. I don't think that that's actually. And you know what? If that is how the final fight goes down, shame on them for showing that in the trailer. Jace says, I'm surprised Mikey Spock is not in the new Star Wars movie and the cast Star Trek Discovery because they're all employees of Bad Robot. Well, actually, no, Bad Robot, keep in mind, while Bad Robot is involved in the production of both Star Wars and Star Trek movies, really, it's Bad Robot is under contract with CBS to do Star Wars, under contract with Lucasfilm, CBS to do Star Trek, under contract with Lucasfilm to do Star Wars, so they can't just cross universes like that. CDA says, more of a Velvet Fog fan, Mel Torme. Well, there you go. I still like Harry Connick. Darren says Bublé is better than Harry Connick. I did like Michael Bublé on Saturday Night Live, especially when he did Ham and Bubbly's Restaurant. That was freaking hilarious with John Hamm. Showmarie, it will turn out The Last Jedi was the final nightmare of a victim that fell into a sarlacc, the poor bastard. I wonder if I can lose my wrench on BIRDOPREY 5 if I continue to trigger Bird. Well, you can keep trying. No harm in trying, unless, well, there's harm of losing a wrench, I guess. The scary thing is that the Star Wars trailer really is closely following... Whoa, and then all of a sudden, hold on. Following the leaked script that Nerdrotic mentioned a couple of weeks back. That sounds cringy. I didn't see that video of Nerdrotic's because, quite frankly, I try to avoid stuff like that, like leaked scripts and stuff like that, because 99% of them are bogus, and if you do happen to get one that's correct, then you just ruin the film. That's Nerdrotic's territory more than mine. So I don't know the story of that. What's your religious channel called? The Church of Turd? No, it's the channel's already there. It just isn't doing anything right now. It's called Rational Roundtable. And so I need to work on some of the artwork and stuff for that and get it set up. And I'm going to record probably a quick video about what the channel's about and put it up there so that people can... And then on the Sunday morning streams, I'm going to start directing people to go there so that eventually it will just take over all the religious stuff. And John DeMarco asks, what will the religious channel be called again? Rational Roundtable. It's already there. There's not much on it right now. Time to get a bigger CPU for the anti-server. Well, I would love to. If I had the money, I would get a massive server machine to see how much we could push it. But even so, we still need people to engage. I read somewhere in the 2020s we'll get 7 Star Wars movies, including 2 trilogies. So I get each trilogy is 3 movies, so 1 movie and 1 individual movie, and that makes 7. Well, Dan, I would not put any... I would not bet any money on anything you might have heard as far as rumors or that kind of thing. We'll get what we get. And quite frankly, I think the first thing they need to do is just fix the trilogy. Bird says, no, fight. I've been fighting people every day. The server's going slow because of the ships I've destroyed. Actually, no, it's going slow because there are massive ships out there that have not been destroyed. And that's the thing, Bird. I know you've engaged a few people. Heck, you and I fought twice. But like when you and I fought, I was in these little throwaway ships. And, you haven't really fought me in my main ship yet. And I haven't seen some of your other fights with there. But, just like when I'm doing garbage cleanup on the server, there is not that much rubble and debris floating around. I've gotten rid of all that pretty quickly. But there are definitely some massive large grids out there, which are obviously big ships. So, and nobody, it seems like nobody other than you that has these massive big ships really wants to risk losing their big ship, which I can understand, but that's the nature of the game. Super Blabberpuss, sorry, I'm new to this. What is the game? It's called Space Engineers. It's on this monitor behind me. And Space Engineers is best way to describe it is Minecraft meets The Expanse. You start out, like in the single player game, you start out with literally nothing but some basic tools, a drill, a welder, and a grinder. And you drill for minerals and ore, and then you use you manufacture equipment to refine said ore and stuff, and so that you can make all sorts of different elements that you can then combine into building components, which you can then build bases, vehicles, weapons, to where you can build like these massive starships like you see behind me, as well as big bases and stuff like that. It's a ridiculously fun game. Now, what you can do is Space Engineers is like $20 on Steam, definitely worth the price. And then if you get Space Engineers, you can join our Space Engineers server by going to antitrekker.com and just following the instructions, and where you can play on our server for free, and it's just a way to have some fun. Epic said, "I will fight. Already have lost 2 ships fighting." Well, I've lost 1 ship fighting. The other ship I've scrapped for parts for my current ship. BIRDOPREY, and their parts are flying in all directions. Actually, I've cleared out most, like all the small grids of like 1 or 2 pieces I've deleted. I thought we were explorer, not a warrior. Well, you're wrong. Mr. Miles says, you heard it here first. Anti-Trekker is pro-war. Well, in Space Engineers I am. Azine says, I'm all for fighting. It's getting destroyed when offline. That's irritating. I'm not even getting a chance to fight back. I understand that, Azine, and you know what? We got completely wiped out at one point, and so yes, I understand. That can be very frustrating. But that's also part of the nature of the game. The problem is, and I'm going to pick on you for just a second, Azine, because a couple of people have complained to me about the fact that your ship is always sitting there at the restaurant inside the safe zone, basically saying that you're more or less just violating the spirit of the game. You're cheating by leaving your ship in a safe zone so nobody can attack you, but you can go off and attack other people. And that's kind of unfair, blah, blah, blah. And on the one hand, I kind of see why people are upset about that. I get it. It makes sense because a lot of us have lost stuff offline. And yes, it's frustrating, but that's just how the game flows. On the other hand, I kind of get what you're saying is it really sucks losing stuff when you're offline. That's going to be solved next go around. I promise you. And I think that my solution is simple and elegant. And I think Bird is going to go for it. And it'll be freaking awesome. But it's good. We're going to have to, we need to get it set up. Josh says, Bird, you're just attacking Kuroga and saying you're attacking everyone. Rock says that BIRDOPREY claiming he's destroyed all these ships in space in years. The thing is he's missing the fact he destroyed them by crashing them into planets. That's true. Demo Gorgonzola says, Hunger Games solution. Make the safe zones temporary, include inactivity penalties. Well, the problem is there's only so much you can do in the game. You can't, because unless someone literally wants to sit there and monitor the safe zones and make changes and stuff, we need to make it so the game is relatively low maintenance, because neither Bird nor I can be full-time admins in the game. We need to make it so that people can play without us having to constantly go in and tinker. Bird says, all of Turkestan was destroyed while you were in recovery. That is true. Kuroga lost 2 or 3 bases. I don't know about that. I know about our stuff that we lost because Thomas and Chris kept me informed. Schromer said, BIRDOPREY, you have to get Enter to clear ship parts and bodies out to the server's filter. Okay. We need to be able to fight through alpacas are banned from fighting on Planet Gravity. If I can find anyone, that's another problem, Epic. I don't like, I think that we need to talk about how we're going to do the factions this time around, too. Tom says, Enter, they hide in safe zones because they're cowards, just like they wait for people to leave to attack. They wait for people to leave to attack. Yeah? Dan says, apparently JJ's Star Trek films have the most lens flare for a series of movies. That does not surprise me. And since I am behind on the chat, guys, I'm going to just read the stuff that has @AntiTrekker in it. So if you do want me to read your comment, make sure you put @AntiTrekker. You need to spell it out, not @AT. That won't do it. It has to be AntiTrekker with the dash for it to highlight. Mr. Miles says, to be fair, it's not unreasonable for people to come up with the same nickname for someone. My nickname, for example. Well, what, your nickname, Mr. Poopy Head? Well, I understand that, but, that's... I don't know, but calling C-3PO 3PO just felt wrong when it wasn't out of one of the classic characters. Loquacious Primate is here! Hey, good to see you. Hello, Trigger. Hope you're feeling a bit better. A bit. I'm getting there. It's going to be a little while still before I'm able to walk around without aid, but I'm definitely feeling better today than I was a week ago. Oz of Sweden is here. Says, hi, Trigger. Hope you're well and recovering. Thank you, my friend. Thomas says they're making a movie of BIRDOPREY as a kid called Jojo Rabbit. No, well, but they're also making a BIRDOPREY movie after a sex change operation called Birds of Prey. Mr. Miles says, I was called Mr. Miles by so many people who had no connection to one another, but all ended up giving me the nickname Mr. Miles. Shows it must be just a common result for me. Well, that I understand that, Miles, but I still just don't like hearing 3PO from someone other than Han Solo or Luke or something. When you have, Poe or Finn or Rey calling him 3PO, that just feels icky. Hector is in the house, says, I saw the Between Two Ferns interview of Brie Larson cringeworthy... Wait. I saw the Between Two Ferns interview of Brie Larson cringeworthy natural acting by Gorgonzola's Lars' son. I don't know what interview you're talking about, but okay. Mr. Miles says, my doctor called Mr. Miles, my grandma did, teachers would, some friends would, and no, Miles isn't my last name. Well, yeah, I know that. Joseph says, sorry, it took me so much to join the stream. I had to finish work. You can start now. Thank you, Joseph. I will now start.
Let me play among the stars. Let me see.
Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. Now that Joseph is here, we can start the live stream. Darth Maul says, could Rey be Luke or Leia's clone? Fandom would be pissed. I hope they don't try to make Rey into a clone or something. That would piss off a lot of people. I definitely think that, yeah, that would be a bad idea. Need more in-trigger Star Wars content. Well, we're going to get some this week. If you want people to engage, you really need Patrick Stewart. Wah, wah. Mr. Bao says, even if you bought a server that could easily handle the game, you'd eventually run into bandwidth issues. That's true, but at least we wouldn't have the PCU issues we're having right now. That's the big problem we're having, is that it's not a bandwidth problem. It's the PCU issue is basically that the processor is having to process on this server is having to maintain so much stuff that it slows down the entire game. And the only real way to fix that would be to upgrade the system, but obviously I don't have money to spend on a new system right now. Scientific Lens says, hey, fair point. I liked her in Scott Pilgrim. I don't get a human mannequin as an acting preference. I think directors are afraid to correct an actor's choice of their portrayal these days. Well, but here's the thing, Scientific Lens. I get the distinct impression from what I've seen of it that the director of, I can't remember her name, but the director of Captain Marvel wanted Captain Marvel to be a stoic character. And the problem is that a lot of people think that to be a strong female character, you can't be emotional. And notice it was a theme throughout the movie that Captain Marvel herself was too emotional. And that's a real problem in this attitude, this sexist Hollywood attitude, that somehow a woman showing emotion makes her weak. That's the opposite of true. If you look at great female characters like Ellen Ripley, Sarah Connor, Laurie Strode, and many others, their emotions play into what makes them a great character. They're boring if they're just walking around stoic. Thomas says, does your Rational Roundtable have 2.2k subs? About that, yes. So that's probably it. So you like Minecraft, but so like space Minecraft, but actually looking good. That's a way. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily looking good, because I mean, good is a relative term. Some people like the blocky look of Minecraft, but yeah, it looks like this. Dan says, Andrew, what's your favorite ship from Star Wars? There's a few I really like. I like the classic blockade runner, the Tantive 4. Love the Millennium Falcon. Love the Star Destroyers as far as design is concerned. If someone's going to say, hey, you can actually have one of the ships from Star Wars, like the real thing, I would take a Star Destroyer simply based on its capabilities as a ship. But if I had to pick a personal favorite, it would probably be the Millennium Falcon. Josh says, if you want a great game for free, Crusader Kings 2 is free on Steam. A good game for having both you and Bird trying to kill each other. Yeah, but I like the sci-fi aspect of this. That's the thing. A lot of the freebie games and stuff are usually fantasy-based, and I believe Crusader Kings 2 is, you know, sword and sorcery type game. I prefer sci-fi tech to swords. Thomas says, I've destroyed three Kuroga ships, one by accident. And of course, Kuroga has destroyed about 20 Kurogan ships. Stromer says, could you put a link for Rational Roundtable in the comments? I've tried looking for it, and the only channel popping up is Roundtable Rationality. Let me see. I can, but I'll tell you, let me wait until I'm actually have the channel set up so that there's, you know, at least something there for you to see. Don't worry, guys. I will definitely be letting you know when it's up and running. Hector says it's more like that to portray superheroes. You need certain traits and type of personalities that you can't fake by acting. It's more like that to portray superheroes, you need a certain traits and type of personality that you can't fake by acting. Well, actually, the whole point of acting is that you can fake it. A good actor can give the appearance of a personality that is not their native personality. An actor with limited range can't do that. That's why, like when we talk about range of an actor, is the actor capable of portraying personality A and then personality B being a completely different type of person. Most actors can't do that. Most actors, basically, what makes them a good actor is to be able to insert themselves into a fictitious situation and have that feel like they genuinely are experiencing what it is, so that like their emotion feels real, but it's still the same personality as the actor. Now, I don't know how good an actor Brie Larson really is, because I've never worked with her, and I'm not a fan of her work. But, you know, but I know from what I've seen, she is at least capable of displaying genuine emotion on screen. Azine, stop eating all the food at the restaurant. The orphans are starving. That is true. Hector is laughing. Mr. Miles says, wait, should I have waited for 10K subs to reveal the origin of my nickname? Yes, you should have. Darren says, Answer, so what do you think about new rumor that MCU Spider-Man will team up with Iceman and Firestar, played by Karen Gillan, in a future movie? I had not heard of that. I would not be entirely opposed to it, doing Spider-Man and his amazing friends, basically. I think that could be fun, except that Karen has already been Nebula, so why would they cast her as Firestar? That doesn't, that's where I would get really skeptical of that rumor, is to have someone play two front and center main characters in the same franchise. Seems like that makes it sound like, no, this is just fan fiction here. Dan says, do you enjoy post-credit scenes on TV shows or films? I do, if they are A, relevant, or B, just plain fun, right? If they're pointless, I don't care. You know, like, I get really mad if there's a post-credit scene that has nothing to do with anything, or like, say you have a post-credit scene that sets up a sequel and the sequel never happens or something. I don't like that kind of stuff. But if they do make sense, like, for example, Marvel has been really good about, hey, let's tease something that's going to happen in the next film. For example, the post-credit scenes for Guardians 2, where you see Adam Warlock's chamber, so you know that Adam Warlock is coming, right? I thought that was actually well done. I also think they do a good job with their funny ones, like at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, when Captain America comes out at the end of the credits talking about how disappointing it is to wait through the credits and get nothing. I thought that was hilarious. Let's see. Tom says, when are you coming on Space Engineers? You're parked illegally. I'll come on later, but I'm definitely not parked illegally. Andrew says, hey, Trigger, when are you getting more Dark Phoenix? I'm hoping to get back into the Dark Phoenix review later this week, as well as other stuff that I'm behind on. And I apologize to you guys, the last few weeks I haven't gotten much of anything done, mainly because I've been on my back 90% of the time. Now I'm on my back about 75% of the time. And I'm trying to push to where I can get on my back less than 50% of the time so that I can actually get some work done. Darren says, I think you're being too nitpicky, this whole 3PO thing. Well, I'm not saying it's not a deal breaker for me. It's not the reason I don't like the new Star Wars. It just bugs me. Mr. Miles says, wait, we restarted the stream first. Yes, so now you're first twice. Dan says, Entry, do you like it when actors release songs? Don't care. Mage says, how well does Poe know C-3PO to give him a nickname in the first place? Exactly. Has Poe and C-3PO even haven't had any real interactions? Just saying. Scientific Lens says, a good director can get a good performance out of anybody off the street. Try to ruffle a powerful Hollywood actress and feathers and see where it gets them canceled. There's a certain amount of truth to that. It's not 100% true, but it is true that, like, you can have an average actor give an Academy Award-winning performance under the right director. You can also have a great actor give a wooden performance under a bad director. Case in point, Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars. I'm sorry, I love the original Star Wars, but Harrison Ford sucked. Why? Because George Lucas is a hack director. He's a great visual effects artist. He's a great storyteller overall, but he is a hack director. He's horrible at it. And so a lot of people don't understand how much of the actor's performance comes from the director. Hey, Trigger, Clone Lives Matter too. Actually, no, they don't. Loquisha says, I don't know about Space Engineers, but could you use a remote server like a DigitalOcean droplet? You pay by the month an actual Linux server. Yes, you can rent servers, and we've tried it, but you run into the same problems on rented servers, except that it actually is worse because you're sharing a server with dozens, if not hundreds, of other games. Do you like watching animated superhero films like Into the Spider-Verse? Do you think more of these types of films should be made? Yes and no. First of all, Into the Spider-Verse I thought was a very good movie. I did not care for the style of animation in that film. However, like, I think that DC's animated films have been really good overall. We should have more of those. But quite frankly, I would rather see quality live action films than more of the kind of crap that we've been getting. One example doesn't make the rule. Bad actors don't make good careers. Well, what example as far as what? As far as a director getting a great performance out of a crappy actor, or a crappy actor giving a great performance? I'm not sure what you mean, Hector. The point of it is that Brie Larson has demonstrated that she can act, but the way that her character was portrayed in Captain Marvel, I think, was intentional, and I think it was a mistake. Retro Lord, I don't know if I've seen you before, so if you're new, welcome. Says, I love the shirt. Thank you, my friend. Mr. Miles says, I want to wait until the channel is ready before I share the link. Yes, that's what I said, although it looks like Thomas shared the link anyway, because the channel is completely not ready. It still has old stuff on it from before. And so, but there you go. Super Blabberpuss says, I've been looking into buying a Steam system. Do you think the Steam link will work for that game? Well, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know anything about buying a Steam system. Quite frankly, I'm not interested in buying a Steam system. It seems like a gimmick to me. I'm more into just give me a straight up power PC. Darren says, Karen Gale could play both. Her look is heavily modified as Nebula. Plus, if she acts completely different, you would believe that they're two different people. I'm not saying that Karen is incapable of it, Darren. I'm saying that it is highly unlikely that they would cast a single actor as two major players in the same franchise. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you could find someone else to play Firestar. There's no reason that Karen has to be the one to play Firestar. It's not like, oh, she is so perfect for Firestar, nobody else could possibly do it. And, in fact, because Firestar is American and Karen is not. So it might make more sense to get an American actress. The only reason I think people think of Karen is because red hair. But they're, guess what? Anybody can put on a wig. And I don't buy that that a studio would want to do that to a single actress, because basically, what if they decide to do a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends movie, and at the same time they're trying to put together a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and now you have conflict of interest because the same actress is required for both. Dr. Alex says, thank you to Mr. Miles, because Mr. Miles talking about how great Dr. Alex's voice is. Hate you. Golden Gunman says, hi, how's it going? I'm hanging in there, my friend. Josh said, Crusader Kings 2 is 1066 to 1442, but there's a mod that does put CK2 in space. But yes, most of the mods are full overhaul mods of the game, like Thrones, Elder Scrolls, Warhammer, etc. Yeah. I get that, but that's why I say I just don't think it would be a good fit for, at least not the way that I like to play. John DeMarco says, Jeffrey Combs did Wayun and Brunt and a bunch of other characters. That's true, but we're not talking about, guest stars. We're not talking about background players, right? Wayun was a reoccurring villain in Deep Space Nine. Brunt was a reoccurring character, but they didn't show up every single week in and week out, right? It's not like, this would be like if Jeffrey Combs was playing Cisco and at the same time playing Tom Paris while Deep Space Nine and Voyager are both on the air. That would not make sense, all right? It's one thing to play Wayun and Brunt. It's another thing to play two actual starring characters, because Nebula is a starring role, and Firestar, assuming you're doing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, would have to be a starring role. That's very different than like if she was playing a background character in one. Multi Gunman likes the shirt as well. Thank you. Darth Maul says, will 3PO die? Don't know. Don't care. I just want a good story. What is your opinion of superhero animals? One example is Crypto the Superdog. I don't care for them. I think they're stupid. C3 will probably knows Poe so badly he calls him Tinky Winky. That's bad. Who's a better director, Abrams or Lucas? On pure directing skill, Abrams is a better director than George Lucas. Absolutely. Now, But here's the thing. There are 3 distinct skills that I'm going to mention here. Directing, script writing, and story writing. Of those 3 things, Abrams is better at directing, better at script writing. Lucas is better at story writing. And so that's where Lucas really shines, is his story arcs. He's very good with that. Lucas is an absolute pioneer and brilliant when it comes to visual effects. That was really what got him started. The whole ILM empire was built on groundbreaking visual effects. And that's something that Lucas does exceedingly well. Abrams is a more talented director, I think. And he's actually a better writer of a screenplay writer. He can write dialogue better than Lucas can. What he can't do is, not particularly effectively, is write a good story. And, people have to understand that there is a difference between story and script. Story comes first, and then you add to story the plot elements, and you add to that the actual dialogue. Dan23, the episode 9 trailer, I don't really like the headsets that Chewbacca and people were seeing wearing in the Millennium Falcon. I did not notice them. I'll have to look for them next time I watch it, which will be shortly after I do this stream. And Trigger, I just shared that just before you said that. Okay, Tom, it's fair enough. But yeah, right now there's nothing to see because the channel, I haven't touched it in a long time. And it's set up for when I used to do shows with Lore Reloaded at the time. Back then he was called Losoyo. DC is going to do an animated pet superhero movie. Well, they can have fun with that one. I don't care about Crypto the Super Dog or any of that crap. I think that kind of stuff is just silly. And silly, not my bag. Silly can be fun from time to time, but I don't want, if I want a silly superhero thing, I'd rather see The Tick. How episode 9 will end with 3PO shutting down only to be turned back on after 3PO falls from the Ewok village at the end of Return of the Jedi. Let's see. Firestar doesn't need to be an American actress any more than Superman or Batman needs to be American actors. Well, I'm not saying it's an absolute requirement, but you know what? I actually do think we need more American actors in some of the American roles because I find it quite annoying when you have an American character who starts breaking into English accents at the wrong time. So I'm sorry, no offense to Chris Hemsworth or Benedict Cumberbatch or any of the other fine actors from other countries, but you know what? Same thing, I don't want, Robert Downey Jr., love Robert Downey Jr., and I even like Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes movies, but I think they would have been better if you had an actual English actor playing Sherlock Holmes. J.D. Breezebows. Wow, that's another one that I'm going to suck at. Haven't watched the new Star Wars trailer. Worried I'll be disappointed. Is it worth checking out? I'll put it to you this way. If you like cool visual effects, you'll like it. If you want anything other than cool visual effects, you will be disappointed. Darren says, Andrew, it reminds me of when Nana Visitor wanted to drop the Major Kira character and wanted to play Janeway. I didn't know that was a thing, but yeah, it would make sense because she obviously couldn't play both at the same time. On DigitalOcean, you have a private server. It's totally isolated, not shared with anyone or any other process. Well, if that were the case, Loquicious, it would probably be cost prohibitive compared to the servers we've rented. But even so, any cost would be an unnecessary expense when we literally have a server sitting right behind me. And the PCU problem is that's just an inherent element of the game. Every server, and this is, by the way, more research I've done on it, it's absolutely true. In Space Engineers, every server eventually reaches a melting point where you have to restart it because the PCU gets out of control. That's just it's a design problem with the game, but it's also one of the reasons the game works so well. The Spider-Man rumor involving Firestar and Iceman is not intended to be a regular thing. It's a one-off, so they could do it. Well, except that if they're going to bring in more heroes, and what if they're popular? It's Marvel. Come on, they're not going to... Marvel is not DC. They're not going to do freaking one-offs, and if they do, that's a huge mistake. Jeffrey Combs was in the same Voyager episode as The Rock. Yes, I remember when The Rock was there. That was embarrassing. And now you're ragging on Crypto. I'm not ragging on Crypto. It's just not my thing. I'm not hating on Crypto. I just don't care for that. Did you like that we got trailers for trailers? No. Have you seen Mystery Men? Yes, I did see Mystery Men. I thought it was funny. As a superhero deconstruction parody, it in a way was ahead of its time. But that's the thing. Do I want Mystery Men to be in the MCU? Hell no. Was it a good one-off movie? Yeah. Marlene says horses on a starship. Dan likes Cosmo. Well, here's the thing. Like, I thought Cosmo in his little cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy was funny. Howard the Duck is funny, but I don't want to see them all over the place. You know. Okay, what's your hot take on Batmite? He's living Funko Pop of Batman. Yeah, don't care for Batmite. I also don't care for Mr. Mxyzptlk, by the way. I think that's over-the-top silly stuff, that most of that came around like in the 60s and early 70s when comics were really very, very campy. I just don't care for it. And Firetail donates €2. Thank you so much. Says, has been a long time since I could join a stream. Well, thank you, Firetail. It's always good to see you, my friend. Aaron says, hey, man, what's first? How you feeling? What's first? I don't know. What is first? But I'm feeling, well, my leg hurts, but other than that, I'm okay. Darth Maul says, more American representation. Here's the thing. It's not, I don't have a slight against British people, obviously. But I think that, the idea when you're casting a film, you want to initially find the actor that most closely matches your character as possible, right? So, for example, if a character is a character who is from Austria, who is supposed to be a large physical presence, and that's your description of a character, it would be much smarter to cast Arnold Schwarzenegger over, say, The Rock. Why? Because Arnold already sounds Austrian. On the flip side, if the character is supposed to be Australian, it'd probably be smarter to cast Chris Hemsworth. If the character is supposed to be British, and so if you find an actor that already speaks the dialect or the accent that you're looking for, you don't need to hire a dialect or accent coach to teach them how to frickin' talk and worry about slip-ups in the movie, which happen invariably, because if the writer doesn't know all the colloquialisms properly and the dialect coach doesn't get it all perfect, then people will say, gee, why is it that didn't sound right? An Englishman would never say this. Well, if you have an English actor, then it would be easier to catch that kind of stuff. But I think, so it's not a matter of representation, it's a matter of efficiency in the filmmaking process. Cast to, if you want to cast a part that has a specific ethnicity or accent attached to it, it's best to find an actor that can just naturally speak that way. I don't know what else to say to that. It's the only way to be authentic. And let's see. JD says, thanks for the heads up regarding the Star Wars trailer. I think I'll wait for the fan reviews when it comes out. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people think of it. Thanks again, Firetail, for the €2. I truly appreciate it. Actor says, have you heard of the Screen Rant documentary about Galaxy Quest? No, I kind of avoid Screen Rant. I'm done with these corporate shill sci-fi sites and their stuff. No offense to the fine people at Screen Rant. But I'm kind of done with these corporate shill websites. I care about the authentic, genuine nerd community, people like you and me. I'm tired of people capitalizing on us. I'm really kind of done with that. Marlena says, how you doing, Ant Trigger? I'm hanging in there, Marlena. Good to see you from the Mirroring Universe. Let's see. So, Great Gazoo doesn't tickle your fancy. No, he certainly does not. Darren says, the rumor about the Amazing Friends also holds that because we are not going to be getting a Guardians of the Galaxy movie for a while, that gives Karen Gillan the opportunity. Except that, like I said, if it's going to continue on, you're going to end up with a conflict. I just think it would be a mistake, Darren. It's okay if you disagree with me, But I think it would be a mistake to cast the same actor in 2 lead roles in the same franchise at the same time. Unless they kill off Nebula. Or they kill off Firestar in that Amazing Friends movie. Unless they do something like that, and one of those 2 characters is dead, I don't like the idea. I think it would be a huge mistake. Mr. Rouse says, you asked what's first. That's me. I'm first. Well, you are who, not a what. Dan says, I put Star Trek on TV and decided to turn it off because it's TNG episode Masks. I hate that episode. I don't remember that one off the top of my head by name. So you'll forgive me. I don't remember. There's a few TNG episodes, though, that I would definitely turn off if they were on. You're crypto-hating, anti-British, redhead-hating, 3PO nitpicking Spurg today, man. Well, I don't know what the Spurg part means, but okay. I'm sorry, but Arnold doesn't sound Austrian. Arnold is Austrian. I hate to tell you this, Firetail. That's Austrian. You may not like Arnold, but, you know, yeah, I've heard other Austrians speak. He sounds Austrian to me. Darren says, if a British actor can make me forget they are British when they're playing an American superhero, I'm fine with that. I'm not saying it's not okay, Darren. I'm just saying that you know what, it depends on the part, obviously. Like, I think that Benedict Cumberbatch was a perfect pick for Doctor Strange. He looks the part and all that. Now, if however, you were going to do a different, if there was another part that Benedict would be better served for. Oh, thank you for the picture, Mr. Miles. Yes, I remember Masks now. Yeah, that's not a great episode. But it's not that you can't cast against the grain as far as what somebody, obviously actors do accents all the time. But if you want it to be authentic, it's best to cast someone that already speaks with it. Hugh Laurie did a great job in House, and it blew my mind when I found out his American accent wasn't his real accent. And I'd want nobody else in the role. Yeah, no, again, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that it doesn't make sense to go out of your way to do it, if that makes any sense. I'm not suggesting that you can't cast a British actor to play an American role. Like, I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's English. A lot of people don't realize that. But you hear him as natural. He's got a clear as day English accent. So I'm not opposed to that. But what I'm saying is that if you're going to go out of your way to cast British actors, I think there's a problem. And I don't know why. And some studios do this. I don't know why. I do know that, like, in some cases, like with Star Wars films, they go out of their way to cast British people because of the frickin' law in England, which, I'm sorry, is completely racist. But it is actually, in order to fuse the studios, I can't remember what the name of the studios are in London, where the Star Wars films are filmed, you have to actually hire British actors. That's why there are so many British actors in the Star Wars franchises, because they've all been filmed at those studios in England, and the local laws says that you have to hire British actors. So, yeah, that's a load of crap to me. Let's see. Another Star Trek episode I hated is Voyager, the fight where Chakotay does his boxing and tries to communicate with aliens. Chakotay does boxing and tries to communicate with aliens? Are you saying he's trying to communicate through boxing? Because I don't remember that. Firetail, after having seen the Star Wars trailer, I just hope that a single ship gets hit and causes a chain reaction considering their tight formation. That formation makes no freaking sense and looks like nothing we've seen in any Star Wars before, which I know they're saying, ooh, we're showing you something different. Well, except that we've seen giant space battles, and we've never seen a bunch of ships clumped up like that before. And, of course, in the prior trailer, we saw that line of perfectly symmetrical Star Destroyers. You know what? I'm predicting it right now. There's not going to be a massive battle. Somehow the big battle is going to be, like, one side is going to be completely obliterated in a single shot, or the battle will be avoided somehow. Mr. Ross says, and then you have someone like Robin Williams who could do tons of voices. Even Doomcock is good at it. Yeah, that's not the point. Darren says, Nebula won't live forever anyway. Maybe not, but she's still alive right now. I'm just saying. Loquisha says, to get a fast CPU with enough RAM, you'd probably be looking at DigitalOcean, drop it at least $50 a month, probably $50 to $100. You have total control. Yeah, I don't have $50 to $100 to piss away every month on a server. We already did that for a while, And it's a waste of money if this runs just as well. No offense. I'm not angry or anything. I'm just saying, spending $50 to $100 a month on a server that is completely unnecessary is completely unnecessary. When this computer, when we compare, because remember, we were spending upwards of $50 on the server that we had for a while, and the performance we've gotten out of this server has been just as good, if not better. An Enterprise episode I do not like is Shuttlepod 1. Shuttlepod 1 was definitely not one of their bester ones. Spurg is short for Asperger. Okay, well, I'm not sure why you would throw that in there, because how does Asperger's have anything to do with the other stuff that I've been talking about? I don't get that. Arnold. Yeah. Arnold San Astian. Yes. I get your only reviews I trust are non-paid nerds without an agenda. I agree. TNG Masks was a dog. Agreed. Mr. Miles says an actor's job is to act. That includes accents. Yes, but that doesn't mean that every actor is good at it, and it also means additional expense if your actor is not already fluent in that accent. Because you then have to hire a freaking acting coach for them, and you know why? What you're pissing away money at that point. You know what? Why would you? You know, if you unless, like I said, if the actor is absolutely perfect for the part, fine, right? If you find a kid like Tom Holland to play Spider-Man, and you got to hire an acting coach for him to speak with a proper American accent, I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. But Andrew Garfield, okay, he was all right as Spider-Man, but he wasn't like he was not Tom Holland great. And, you know, so, but for him, you know, hiring an acting coach for him to speak with a proper American accent seemed like a waste of money. Sometimes studios hire British actors because most American viewers won't recognize them from other things they've seen. That I could understand, but like I said, in the case of Star Wars, it's because of a legal thing. And let's see, we need more Americans playing British, like Mary Poppins, for example. We see, and I don't like that either. Like, look at Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins. That was, oh, that accent was bad. Honestly, regarding Star Destroyers lined up like that, they look to me like they're parked there. They also seem to be dark, no lights being on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Obviously, we'll find out in the movie, but it just, that seemed really odd. Those shots just seem odd because they seem like they're doing, the ships are, here's the thing. I don't want every Star Wars movie to be exactly the same, but at the same time, if you establish this is the way that this type of thing happens, like when ships warp in and get ready for a battle, this is how they position themselves, and you know, and it works this way every single time. And then all of a sudden, you completely change it. It just rubs me the wrong way, unless there's a good reason in the story for it, which I'm totally open to. There are lots of these, let's see, Dan says, intro, there are lots of these films. Rocky, Karate Kid, Alien, and Predator. Some of them eventually get reboots. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan, that's part 2 of what film franchise do you think there's too many films? I don't believe that you can have too many films in a franchise unless the franchise simply runs cold, right? So, like, for example, you mentioned the Rocky, Karate Kid, Alien, and Predator, right? So, with Rocky, the funny thing is, Rocky started to fall apart at Rocky 5, but then found itself again in Rocky Balboa and has been going strong since. The Creed films, I think, have been a great continuation of the Rocky saga. Karate Kid, the reboot was a hot mess. The first film was good. The sequel, not so much. And so I think that the Karate Kid should not have been, you know, the second movie was one too many. Alien, obviously, Alien and Aliens, absolute classics. The rest of it, all unfortunately failed attempts to recapture the magic. So in the Alien franchise, the third movie was too many. Predator. Predator's a funny one because Predator's been kind of hit and miss off and on throughout the franchise. I think Predator 1 was you know, obviously great. I think Predator 2 was it was okay. I think Predators was actually pretty good. I liked that one, but The Predator I think was meh. So it's kind of, that one's kind of a hit and miss one. It's literally 50-50, not counting the AVP movies. But I don't think there's a set, this is too many movies. Because with Marvel's 20 movies and running, and I am not bored with it. I like the Marvel movies fine. The James Bond movies, they're at like 24 is the next one, and I'm fine with them continuing on forever. It's just, the movie franchise needs to end if they can't make a good story anymore. Let's see. Darren says, quote of the day, spending $2,000 on an unnecessary server is unnecessary. Yes, that is my quote of the day. Josh says, the new anti-computer would make a better anti-server than the old anti-computer. That is true, but I can't spare the new anti-computer to do that unless I got a newer anti-computer. Get to the chopper! When it comes to voice acting, people mention Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins. Yeah, because that Cockney accent of Dick Van Dyke's was horrible. The Voyager episode with Chakotay boxing was when they were in chaotic space and physics made no sense. The aliens there couldn't communicate. Okay. I vaguely remember that. There's so much of the Voyager. I try to block a lot of Voyager out of my mind. I'm sorry. I know that's mean, but I know there are some of you guys that love Voyager. I don't. Voyager is my least favorite of the later era Trek shows, narrowly beating out TNG as being the bottom of the heap. And I'm sorry to you TNG fans, but the problem with TNG is that TNG has moments of absolute brilliance and greatness, and a lot of moments of absolute crap, and that's like almost any episode featuring Wesley Crusher. Would you like me to get you a spade shovel so you could dig yourself into this British actor hole a little more efficiently? Sure, that would be wonderful. Remember, sometimes there's something shown in a trailer that may not exactly be in the film. That's true, they do that a lot, and I actually don't like that. It's been happening more in recent years where they will actually put scenes into the trailer that don't make the final cut of the film at all. Like, for example, Iron Man 2, they have a scene in which Pepper Potts and Tony have a moment on the airplane before he jumps out of the plane to go to the Stark Expo. And in the film, Pepper Potts is not on the plane at all. They do stuff like that, which I don't like that. I think that that's misleading, and I just, quite frankly, don't think they should do that. If you're going to show it in the trailer, I understand if stuff is filmed specifically for the trailer. Like, for example, one of the classic trailers was for the original Alien, where they show the egg just sitting there, and then it cracks, and you see light coming out of the crack of the egg, and they're like, ooh, and in space, no one can... They don't show you anything, they just show you this egg that was just produced for the trailer. Brilliant. But to actually put stuff that looks like it's supposed to be part of the movie in the trailer that's not in the movie, or completely misleading, I don't like. Another great example is in Avengers Infinity War. You see the Hulk in the Battle of Wakanda. Some actors just have one accent for every role. Sean Connery's English accent was just like his Spanish accent, which is the same as his Irish accent, which sounded just like his Russian. Yeah, and I don't like that either. Sean Connery, I love Sean Connery. He doesn't have any range as an actor, but I really like him. He's a great presence in the films that he's in. But Sean Connery should not be playing a part where his accent is inappropriate. Loquisha said, one thing, you should go the route if you have a machine that does the job. Just letting you know I experience with. Oh, no problem, no problem. I'm not trying to pick a fight with you. I'm just saying that I'm not going to spend the money if it's unnecessary. Predator 2 was better than the first, in my opinion. I disagree. I think Predator 2 was kind of a mess. It had its moments and some good stuff about it, but I just didn't think it was that great. Mr. Miles says, well, balances out. Your editor Trek preferences is almost exact reverse order of yours. Well, yeah. You've said before that you think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Voyager is my favorite Trek series. No, that's all right, Miles, and you're entitled to your opinion on that. If you like Voyager, I'm okay. There are things to like about Voyager, right? The only Trek series I would seriously question your judgment if it was your favorite would be Discovery. It just depends on your personality, what you like in a show, and what that show presents. Voyager has got, of all the previous, not counting Discovery or anything, Voyager has the best visual effects, has some really solid acting, has some episodes with some really solid acting, has a more interesting and eclectic cast than most of the next-gen era Treks. So there's plenty to defend Voyager with. Just for me personally, I don't like it. And let's see. TNG preaching was eye-rolling. Yeah, that's what I could not stand in TNG. And granted, fortunately, by the end of the series, they kind of got over it. But the first couple seasons in particular, it's like every time Picard opened his mouth, he had to talk about how evolved humans were and like, to me, the biggest insult and why honestly, a lot of people think Discovery is like way out there as far as politics. But watch the frickin' episode, The Neutral Zone. That is Discovery's politics in a nutshell, that episode. Where they literally look at a homemaker, a country music star, and a financier from the 20th century and roll their eyes at them, how pathetic they are, and how could we have possibly survived the 20th century? A freaking homemaker! Why? Because liberals hate homemakers, right? They think that it's, you need to go out and have a career and be an independent woman and not depend on men, right? It's horrible that you're a homemaker. F you! Not you guys, of course. I don't like that either. Having Hulk in the trailer or Endgame fighting Wakanda, Thor having both of his eyes in the trailer for Ragnarok. Yeah, I think that kind of intentionally misleading stuff it shouldn't, and Marvel does it a lot, but, and I can understand, like, for example, like you mentioned, Thor having both of his eyes in the trailer for Ragnarok. I can understand why they did it. They didn't want to reveal that Thor lost an eye. But really what they should have done is not use that clip. Wow. Mind-blowing. And in fact, I think that trailers should really only focus on the setup for the film, should never show you anything from the climax. Unfortunately, way too many trailers do these days. I mean, heck, the Terminator Genesis trailer showed you that John Connor was a frickin' Terminator. The Terminator 2 trailer showed you that the Terminator was a good guy. You don't give away massive spoilers in the trailer. That is just... ugh. Dan says, sometimes a toy for a movie gets put into shops and it's not in the film or it's based on an earlier version or something. Yeah, and sometimes the toys just create variations just to sell more toys, right? Like, when the Batman movies were all the thing... they had 17 different versions of Batman that were not in the movies at all, but they put them out there just to sell more toys. Darren says, Scottish accents work regardless of where the character is from. Sean Connery, Gerard Butler, etc. Well, of course, Scottish accents are the best accents, so there's that. I've been very acerbic toward you this morning. I apologize. Well, I don't even know what acerbic means, so apology accepted, I guess. JD says, I love Voyager, but fully agree the bad episodes were pretty cringeworthy. Threshold. Oh, man. Threshold. And the worst part of it is not even that Janeway and Paris having reptile babies. It's that they abandoned those reptile babies and even mentioned that they abandoned them. Who Watches the Watcher? Great episode. That's a cringe fest as far as the Federation Gospel. When Next Gen's politics, when they got into it, man, they were every bit as bad as Discovery. It's just that Discovery does a bunch of other stuff wrong as well. And the saving grace of Next Gen is you could say, well, not every episode was full of those politics. And it was fewer episodes the further into the run you got. Some Star Trek movie posters depict the movie differently. That's true as well. Sharma says, wait, Antrekker, wait, are you saying Star Trek Discovery was supposed to be Trek? It had nothing to do with Trek. I thought it was just a terrible comedy. Nope, Star Trek Discovery is apparently part of the Star Trek franchise. I know, crazy, but yeah. Firetail says, I always thought the reason why we saw the Hulk was because they didn't want to spoil it and mislead a bit. Oh, no, that's absolutely why they did it. I can understand the reasoning behind it. But the thing is, it also sets up a false expectation. Like, ooh, yeah, we're going to get to see the Hulk and Thanos round 2, right? Everybody wanted to see the Hulk and Thanos round 2, and we never got it. Mr. Miles says, there's a guy named Lore Runner that has done a sort of similar thing to your objective-subjective reveal, but it's all for Voyager. I've heard of Lore Runner, but I haven't watched his videos. He feels similarly to the show than you. The show ended up scoring pretty well, and it surprised him. Huh, okay. Mr. Miles loved Who Watches the Watchers? Of course he did. But that's because you're a left-wing wacko. Darren says, the first movie trailer I remember seeing that showed us all the good parts was Beetlejuice. The best parts of the movie were parts we already seen in the trailer. Yeah, I don't think, first of all, if a movie is really, really awesome, you should not have to show the best parts of the movie in the trailer. And the problem is that that's a sign of a weak film. If you see a trailer that shows you a lot of stuff that's clearly from the climax of the film, then that's a bad, bad idea. Scientific Lens says, did you see Watchmen yet? Interested in your take. I have not seen it yet. If and when I do see it, I will talk about it. But from what I've heard, it's a hot mess. Dan says, why is it Search for Spock? They knew exactly where he was when they don't have to search for him. They just went to where he was. Yeah, it really shouldn't have been called The Search for Spock. It should have been called The Trip to Spock's Body. But, that wouldn't have been as good a title. I mean, I understand. The Search for Spock sounds nice, but yeah, it really wasn't a search as much as a recovery mission. Joseph says, speaking multiple languages, my accent is all over the place in every one of them. With English, school was pure British England, but movies and TV come mostly from the U.S. I sound really weird. Well, that's okay, Joseph. You're still one of us. Darren says, yeah, if you're a huge Hulk fan as I am, the Infinity War trailer is a really shitty thing to do. Exactly. And that's the thing, because everybody has their favorite characters. And for people that really wanted to see the Hulk and Thanos going at it, and, you got Thanos beating the tar out of the Hulk at the beginning, and you're like, holy crap. And so you're waiting for that big rematch that never happens, and that could be incredibly frustrating. Some sci-fi movies use the phrase at the edge of the universe, and technically it's not near the edge of the universe. I find that annoying. Yes, I do too. And in fact, they did that for the Star Trek II trailer. I remember they said at the end of the universe lies the beginning of vengeance. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And yeah, I hate when they say stuff like that. Or in a world, I hate that phrase. Let's see. Thomas says, didn't like when the trailer for the Two Towers showed Gandalf was alive. I agree, because for those that didn't read the books, huge spoiler. Mr. Miles says, speaking of things I love and you hate, I'll be watching Richard Dawkins on Joe Rogan later today, listening while cleaning my house. Well, and here's the thing, Richard Dawkins, and obviously Richard Dawkins is a guy I'll talk about more on the other channel once I get it up and running. Richard Dawkins, I think, is a smart man, but he's also an idiot at the same time. It's a very interesting combination. I mean, as far as genetics and biology and stuff, he's a brilliant, brilliant scientist. As far as philosophy, he's a complete and utter idiot, and he has no manners whatsoever. And I'm sorry, if you're going to have an argument, you're going to have a disagreement, you're going to have a debate of some kind. People like Dawkins, the reason he pisses me off is because he openly, and I'll give him partial credit, he's open and honest about it, he will openly encourage people to simply mock and laugh at the opposition rather than to engage. But the problem is, what that teaches me about Dawkins is that he is dogmatic, close-minded, and bigoted. Because if you're going to simply mock, and it doesn't matter what the topic is, right? Like, let's say me and Darren were getting into a fight about flat earthing, right? Because Darren is a flat earther. And so let's say that me and Darren were going to get into an argument about it. And I just start laughing at his stupid beliefs and say, you think the Earth is a pancake floating in space and you're just an idiot. Now, what that's doing is basically telling Darren, I'm not interested in anything you have to say. I'm not going to even acknowledge that you are an intelligent human being. I am simply going to ignore and ridicule anything you can possibly say. That is the epitome of bigotry and closed-mindedness. And that is Dawkins in a nutshell, unfortunately, because the flip side of it is Dawkins is a brilliant scientist, and it would be nice if he would actually engage people in debate rather than just ridicule them, which is what he tends to do. And that's just my opinion on him. Same thing with Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens was a brilliant atheist and had some great arguments, except that he, like Dawkins, would never take seriously his opposition. That is not how you win a debate. It really isn't. Dawkins and Hitchens and others like them, all they do is preach to the choir. That's all that they do. Is they, by insulting and putting it down their opponent in. I know he's been in debates, Mr. Miles, but he doesn't debate the person. He mocks them. All right? And there's a difference. I've listened to many a debate featuring Dawkins and or Hitchens. And the thing is that if you're not going to acknowledge what the person says and respond to what they say, rather you're simply going to say what that person said is stupid, that's not a debate. And that's why, and the funny thing is that sometimes encourages some of the worst in their opponents, because they'll say, see, he can't disprove what I'm saying, so he's just going to mock me. And unfortunately, that's a valid point. If you can't, honestly, if you can't argue with a person on and actually address the points that they bring up, then you've got nothing. And maybe you're just not intellectually equipped for the debate, or maybe you're just not up to speed on the topic in question. But if you're going to, one thing that you should always do if you're going to engage in an actual debate with somebody, particularly a free form kind of like, if you're going to actually set it up like we're going to have an argument in the true technical term, we're going to try, have a nice cordial argument on a particular topic. The goal of the argument should always be to learn and understand your opponent so that you can come up with a rational, reasonable explanation to why they are wrong. Now, this is the flip side. In order to do that properly, you also have to acknowledge that they could be right, and you have to be willing to understand that you may be wrong, and in order to do that, you have to listen and engage them rather than simply mock them. Dawkins and Hitchens and many others of their ilk cannot, under any circumstances, acknowledge the fact that they could be wrong. That is the height of hubris. Anyway, let's get back to it, and then we got to wrap things up. A lot of time film trailers use a song when you watch the film, the music, and then in the film. That doesn't bother me as much, because sometimes the film soundtrack might not be done at the time the trailer comes out. I don't mind generic music, but I don't want to be completely misled in a trailer. Mr. Rouse says, you're very wrong about Hitchens. He has very deep interest and respect for religion. He doesn't like it, but he never took it lightly. Well, you know what? Never took it lightly. I'm sorry, then you haven't seen very many of his debates. I think Michael Burnham blatantly rips off Tony Stark that make her a complete know-it-all and can't do anything wrong. Even her Red Angel suit is her Iron Man suit. Michael Burnham, I'm not going to even get into Michael Burnham right now. Joseph says, I'm on the non-religious side, but even I've had problems with Hitchens. Yeah, he's a bore. And I don't mean bore like boring. I mean a bore as in that's his personality type. Similar, Donald Trump is a bore. That's just, he's a bloviant, arrogant bore. Mr. Ryan says, I will admit Dawkins will sometimes do it, but Hitchens was as well studied as many theologians. Hitchens was not a dummy. I'm not saying that either Dawkins or Hitchens was not well studied or intelligent. However, they refuse to acknowledge, in most cases, unless they're debating someone that they actually know personally. Like, for example, I can't remember the guy's name, Irish professor at Oxford. I've seen him debate Hitchens. And they respected each other, but they also knew each other personally. And that's unfortunately rare. Wesley says, I'm here. Darren says, I liked Hitchens personally, but then I only paid attention to him in the years right before he died. Like I said, Hitchens, brilliant man. Just, but I have very little respect for the way that he engaged people for the most part. Mr. Ross says, please allow me to change your mind about Hitchens. I have a video I can link to you when you have a conversation with a friend about religion, not a debate. Well, but the thing is that you need to show me where he shows respect to an actual person that he's debating. Not somebody that, not that Irish guy, somebody else. But I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but for the most part, from what I've seen of Hitchens, he's rude, he's and he's a bore. And it's not a matter of like I said, I'm not saying Hitchens is a dummy. I'm not even arguing about his rightness or wrongness in his arguments, because if he's taking on a certain people, I agree with him. He's taking on other people, I disagree with him. But the problem is not, to me, his arguments. The problem is his attitude. Dan says, I don't need Disney to make Tron 3. I don't think anybody needs anybody to make Tron 3. Stromer says, Dawkins looks for the worst and most lunatic elements of religion. That's true. He's very much in line with the YouTuber Thunderfoot. Thunderfoot tries to take the most extreme and outrageous people in the group and try to say that's the norm. It's basically just a giant straw man by trying to make the fringe the norm and then arguing against that. Anyway, this is not going to be a big old... We're not going to talk about religion right now, so because I need to wrap things up. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. Dawkins looks for the worst. I already read that. I've seen almost every debate Hitchens has been in, and I own 3 of his books. I know Hitchens better than you suspect. I'm not saying... I'm sure you do. I'm sure you know him great. That doesn't change the fact that from what I've seen of him, he's been an absolute bore. What's the oddest film you've ever seen? Eraserhead. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? What's the weirdest location in a film you've watched? Like, you watch a film and you think that it's set in a really weird location. I don't know, Dan. I mean, the one that kind of made me feel weird was the movie Zodiac, because there's a sequence in the movie where a couple is brutally murdered in the film, and then I recognized where they were, because where they shot it was literally about 2 miles away from my mom's house. And then I found out that the reason they chose that location is that's where the crime actually took place, which was a little unnerving. Raymond says, what are your thoughts of the final trailer, Star Wars 9? It's not a trailer at all. It's just a visual effects reel. It's some nice visual effects with no story, no plot, nothing in it to tell me what the movie is about. So it doesn't even feel like a trailer to me. Doctor Who doesn't need to make Cybermen look like Iron Man. Well, it's funny because, yeah, the Cybermen look a lot like the Mark I armor from the comics. Thomas says, FYI, I didn't find anything helpful with the test we did in Space Engineers yesterday. Thank you. Being here streaming all day, let's keep it up so we can have that. No. I would love to, but I got stuff to do. And I know you guys want me to get my videos done, so, you know. MBF78. Now, there's a name that just rolls off the tongue. And if you're new, welcome. Sometimes a more rude approach can be entertaining. Well, and that's what Dawkins and Hitchens and others do. They're simply trying to entertain the people that are already on their side. They're not trying to convince anybody. And they're not interested in the debate. They're simply entertainers. That's all they are. And that's one of the reasons I have very little respect for them. Wesley says, Anti-Trigger, what's going on today? Well, after this, I have a little meeting with BIRDOPREY, and then I got to record some stuff for Mr. Miles, and then I got some work to do on the other channel so I can get that ready to go. Mr. Miles says, you accuse me of saying you think I haven't seen as much of Hitchens. And if I did, I apologize. Even if I think he doesn't hold religion on high regard, the importance is it's played in our history. The importance it's played in our history and so on. Well, I'm not saying he doesn't acknowledge that religion has had a huge impact on our history and stuff like that. When I say hold in high regard, I mean he has no respect for the belief or the believers. And that's what really I think is missing from his ilk, from both him and Dawkins. When engaging with people of differing beliefs, he does not respect the person nor the belief. And that is a mistake in my opinion. If I'm going to, and I've done it many times in the past, if I'm going to debate with someone, be it an atheist, be it a person who thinks Star Wars is better than Star Trek, or any other topic, you need to treat the other person with respect, listen to them, and, you know, try to understand where they're coming from, because guess what? They just might be right. And if they are, you need to admit that. Loquisha says, Richard Dawkins' terrible philosophy is an example of what happens when a scientist tries to do philosophy without any philosophy background. I agree 100% on that. MBF78 says, at times I like to watch somebody have a serious and well-argued discussion about something, and other times I like to watch somebody take the piss out of somebody or something. I understand, and quite frankly, taking the piss out of somebody, as you put it, interesting way to phrase it, I assume you're not American, but taking the piss out of somebody can be very entertaining and very fun, and probably would get you a larger audience than a well-argued discussion. But the problem is that it's still disingenuous, and all it's doing is like I said, it's the fallacy of preaching to the choir. It's just basically it doesn't win an argument. It just makes your side go, yeah, and the other side go, ugh, and that accomplishes nothing. Do you want a Marvel movie set in the future showing a futuristic Iron Man? No. I don't want them to stick with the timeline. Senator, I served with Hitchens. I knew Hitchens. Chris Hitchens was a friend of mine. You, sir, are no extra tasty crispy. Okay. What's your favorite Weird Al song? All About the Pentiums. Close second, White and Nerdy. They filmed Dawn of the Dead at my mall. That's creepy. Michael Wells. I don't know if I've seen you before. If you're new, welcome. Good to see you. Hope your recovery is going well. Thank you, Michael. Mr. Ross says, no, I said importance, not impact. He doesn't think of humanity would have survived without religion. Okay. And you don't know Hitchens. No, I never met the guy. A meeting with BIRDOPREY 5. What secrets are you going to tell him now? Nothing. We're going to be talking about the next round on the server. Do you have a timetable for the next version of the Space Engineers server? No, I'm going to be talking to BIRDOPREY about that in just a little bit. But I don't agree that Michael Burnham is everything that we need as the answer. But I don't agree that Michael Burnham is everything that we need in TV. I never said Michael Burnham was everything we need in TV. I think Michael Burnham is nothing that we need on TV. Sherman says, I've read The God Delusion because I just want to, I didn't just want to criticize him without hearing him out. It turns out, though, it was the author who was delusional. I kind of agree with you on that. My favorite Weird Al song of all time was The Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota. Okay, I can't sing that song, but yeah, that's a classic. I tend to like Al's parodies more than his original stuff, but his original stuff is also pretty darn good. All right, guys, I am going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for hanging out with me this time, and we will chat again soon, I'm sure. So, BIRDOPREY, I'm going to call you in a minute, and Mr. Miles, I'm going to get that recording done for you shortly thereafter. And the rest of you, don't forget that life is just a toilet bowl, so sit down and keep it warm.
Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, I love you. You son of a bitch, anti-tracker! You take that back! You take that back right now! He said that Frank Sinatra and Freddie Mercury were man-on-man lovers. It's not true, Mr. Miles! You're all liars! You're all liars, you sons of bitches!